Today I'm talking to my managing broker, John Armstrong. And we are going to talk today about some of the information that I think the public has heard about, and maybe we can clear up for them. I think everyone is aware through either television or newspapers, magazine articles about the changes that are coming with the National Association of Realtors and how commissions will be handled, but it's not only commissions. So you're an expert in this field, so I just kind of wanted to talk to you a little bit about what we hear from the inside that may sound factual, what is not quite factual from what we're hearing.
Well, thank you for having me on your podcast, Emily.
Thanks for coming.
It's funny that you were citing all the sources of where people are hearing this. And a lot of the times the media isn't exactly credible on this topic. They're taking little bits and pieces and leaving out important details. Right. Now, there's two really key changes to the settlement that everybody's hearing about. And this was a lawsuit against the National Association of Realtors that was a class action suit initiated by sellers. And the two main issues were price fixing, and they were alleging that the realtors were conspiring together to have a certain price structure, right, which clients have always been able to negotiate. The reason why they're claiming it was collusion is because we communicate as realtors what the co-op commission is on the MLS, so that everybody knows, hey, if I sell this home, this is what I'm getting paid.
So just to stop for a minute, just to make sure everybody understands MLS, that is a multiple listing service.
Yes, very important.
And up to this point, that is what we as realtors have used to show other agents, other brokerages, what is available, what we have for sale. And part of what the public does not see, because I mean, all of those listings hit Trulia, Zillow, all of the websites. And what is not communicated necessarily on those sites is what a cooperative commission would be.
Right.
And that's something that was decided upon or paid from brokerage to brokerage,
correct,
not agent to agent.
Correct. Yeah, it's the brokerages that agree. It's as a managing broker, I will, Emily, if you go out and get a listing, I'm going to put you as the designated representative on my behalf as a managing broker.
Right.
But the commissions go brokerage to brokerage. And for years, how we've done it is if Remax Rising makes a sale and we're working with another company, then we're agreeing to pay that other company, where our seller is agreeing to pay us, and then we're taking a percentage of that and enticing a buyer's agent to bring a buyer, and agreeing to pay the commission. That amount's, it's always been negotiable.
Correct.
I think a lot of the media is acting like this is a real news flash. Really, when it comes down to that portion of the lawsuit, again, there's two key components. That portion of the lawsuit, really the only thing that's changed is the way we communicate what we're willing to pay a buyer's agent. Now, there are still ways we can communicate it.
Yes.
The second main piece of this is, I almost feel like it's damning to the public. It's you can't enter a property without representation. You have to have a buyer's representation form signed. Now, a lot of times somebody just sees a house and they pick the phone up and they call their favorite realtor and say, hey, can we go look at this property? Well, now if they're going to be doing licensed activity for you, there needs to be a financial arrangement where, okay, if I bring you, if we get this together, then you're going to agree to pay me this if the seller is not willing to pay me.
And again, I'm going to just interject a little bit. There's a form, a buyer's agreement form.
Correct.
Which our market has used voluntarily. I mean, it hasn't been a requirement.
It hasn't been, but it's almost been used as if it was required. I mean, our company has had a policy since the day we opened that we require a buyer's. We require that signed by a
Right.
buyer.
So, but it doesn't only speak to commission. It also kind of, I think, nicely outlines what a buyer can expect from the brokerage,
Correct.
what they can expect from their designated broker, and what we expect from them as buyers.
Yeah, absolutely.
So everybody's kind of responsibilities are laid out.
Right.
And I think it helps the buyers understand the value they're receiving for whatever that commission is going to be.
Yeah, there's nothing more frustrating than a buyer who says, I want this needle in a haystack.
Mm-hmm.
And we go out as a realtor and we find that needle in a haystack and they say, I can't look at it for another 5 days.
Right.
One of the biggest expectations I have is you've got to be available when the right property comes up. And if you're serious about it, then we need to provide, we need to show proof that you can either pay cash for it or get the financing.
Right.
And we have a lot of buyers that are like, well, I don't really want to do that unless I find a house. Well, in this market, by the time you found the house,
Right.
if you have to go through the financing piece of it, it's probably going to be too late for you to put an offer in.
It's too late, and that's, as a buyer's agent, that would really not be advocating for your buyer.
Right.
It's not in the buyer's best interest. So sometimes we do have to.
Right. I think it is important though that they understand. The way I'm looking at this is it's much like a seller. I'm not going to put my sign in front or represent a seller until we're under contract.
Correct.
So for a buyer,
Correct.
I'm not going to put forth, a tremendous effort until I know that they're working with me as an
Right.
agent, and I know I'm going to get paid.
Right.
That's the other thing. You hear the headlines. This is the end of the 6% or whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's great for them to say that, but I'm not working for free. My efforts, my services are. I provide tremendous value
Correct.
to clients, and
Correct.
you as an agent, you provide tremendous value, and you're gonna expect compensation for it.
Exactly. We don't work for free, and so.
Which can bring up a huge wrinkle in a transaction, especially when we're talking about first-time home buyers. I've already had the conversations, and it's important to know that these changes don't take effect until at the earliest July.
Correct. It has to go through a federal court. Correct.
Correct.
They have to
Approve
okay
it.
the settlement. Right.
Correct. But I've had people. I have one client in particular that is looking at a $500,000 house. They have a $500,000 house to sell. Mm-hmm. They want to wait until after the settlement in order to not have to pay a buyer's commission. Well, there's a house that is tremendous comp to them, a great comparable that did sell for $500,000 recently, and they did pay a buyer's agent. Now, if the buyer for that property is coming in and going to also have to pay their agent, they're not going to be willing to pay the $500,000.
Right. Right.
I've looked at it, and I know there's a lot of different ways to look at this. I've looked at it that the buyers have always paid the compensation, even though the sellers are the ones agreeing to pay it. The buyer has paid it by it being baked into. It's been baked into the negotiations.
Exactly, it has been, and I think when you're out doing buyer presentation or seller presentation, listing, it's like people are not saying, okay, I think my house is worth $500,000, and now I'm going to tack on, something for commission.
Right.
Or conversely, no one is saying, I'm going to reduce the price of my house
Nobody's saying
by
that.
X amount of money. And I think interestingly enough also, and I guess we really don't know how this is going to play out exactly, but when you look at an appraisal report, nowhere on the appraisal report is commission mentioned yet. Exactly. So historically, you sell a $500,000 house, and that seller has paid both a seller's agent and a buyer's agent commission, or the brokerages. that has been rolled in, but it's not noted that way on
Right.
appraisals.
I think it will be.
Yeah, I think it's going to have to be.
Yeah. So can you imagine the situation where the seller is saying, okay, I'm going to make this very easy for a buyer. I really want to entice buyers. I want to get multiple offers. I want to get good offers. So I'm going to entice the buyer, and I'm going to pay my listing agent, and I'm going to offer compensation for the buyer's agent. But then I have to go buy a property. And if that seller is not offering to pay my buyer's agent, you may end up paying more than what you would have in the first place.
Correct.
You just hope that there is relief on the house that you're buying because that seller is not paying the commission to make up a little bit.
Correct. Or that they both pay. You know, that everybody pays.
And I don't see this being a one size fits all where, okay, some sellers, there's going to be certainly some sellers out there that say, I just don't want to pay the buyer's agent's fee.
Sure.
You're going to have that. But there's going to be certain types of buyers that first-time home buyers are struggling to come up with their down payment.
Right. There are first-time home buyers who are, digging in the piggy banks.
Correct.
To come up with money to enter the housing market.
So are they going to be eliminated from, are you eliminating those first-time home buyers when you're not offering to pay
exactly
a commission?
As a seller, you're limiting your pool of buyers.
Yes.
And we would never, shouldn't say never, but I can't think of a situation off the top of my head where we would advise our sellers to limit their pool of buyers.
Yeah, it's one of those things like paint your front door yellow and you'll eliminate some buyers.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, turn that fourth bedroom into something done into a laundry room, and you're going to eliminate the buyers.
Correct.
No realtor is ever going to recommend to their client.
Right.
And we as realtors, we are fiduciaries, just like a doctor, your attorney. We're there to give you the strongest advice to maximize your asset.
Right.
So there may be situations where I say, hey, it's a good idea to offer this much commission on this type of a house to a buyer's agent. And on this type of a house, it may be better to offer this type of a commission.
Right.
So we're really going to have to become experts at diagnosing what's going to be the best approach to maximize my seller.
Right, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And I think that's not going to be that hard for us to do. I mean, we already do that. I mean, one of the major things that we do for our clients is negotiating.
Negotiation.
It's negotiating. So,
right.
That's one of the things that, brings value.
We had some really good news a couple of weeks ago from Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, who were saying in the event that a buyer does want to roll their buyer agency fees into their loan, that won't count against the amount of allowable fees they have. For example, certain type of loans may say, okay, in this type of loan, the seller can pay 3% of your closing costs.
Right.
Well, let's say that you had to pay, I don't want to say a number because it's really negotiable, but let's just say that there was a number that you were willing to pay for your buyer's fees. It won't count against that 3%. You'll still be able to get 3% on top of rolling in your buyer fees. So there is some good news on that. It's really, I think the headlines and the media have really taken this a whole nother spin. The only thing on this has changed is how we communicate what the fees are.
Correct.
So people are asking me how I feel this is going to play out. I feel like it's what we've already been doing. We just have to be more creative about how we're communicating what we're willing to share with a buyer's agent.
I agree. I mean, I just think that this is exactly. I mean, we're just going to have to pivot a little bit.
Right.
With our communication. Change is not always a bad thing.
No,
it's
the only thing that doesn't like change is a baby with a wet diaper. I mean, I like a challenge. I like that it's a new frontier and we have the opportunity. I mean, and really, it's an opportunity for us for a change. And the true professionals like yourself are going to win in this.
Right.
It's the buyer's agents that aren't providing values or aren't able to articulate the value that they bring to a transaction, they're the ones that are gonna suffer a little
They'll
bit.
struggle.
Yeah, they'll struggle. If they can't articulate what their value is, if they can't say, I'm so good at negotiations. My marketing is going to get you into a situation where you're going to have multiple offers. My strategy for how we allow showings. If none of that has value, then they probably should look for a different career. But it's the true professionals that we know. We've been doing this a long time,
Yeah,
Emily.
we have.
We know what we bring to a transaction.
Yes, we do. We do indeed. So I think the upshot, just to sort of bring it all home, I think that everybody needs to take a big breath, deep breath, relax. I think that,
Couldn't agree more.
Buyers, I'm sure they're frantic, that they're going to have to come up with extra cash at closing. I'm not sure that's going to have to happen.
Yeah.
And
we'll see situations.
Of course.
We'll see situations. And I really think that it will correspond with if you're not paying a commission as a seller, you'll have longer days on the market. You'll have a need to negotiate off of your price more.
Right.
There's going to be side effects where the sellers who say, I'm going to pay the buyer's fees, I'll pay the buyer's agent's fees, and let's get multiple offers. They're going to be the ones who win. It's the people who try to play the games and let's see if we can get away with this. Well, by the time you tried the waters, you might be 30 days in the market.
Exactly.
And in this market, people are saying, what's wrong with the house?
Yes, I know. As agents, we're saying that.
Correct. But we're saying it not 30 days. We're saying it 4 days.
Exactly. If it's on a week, we're like, what's wrong?
What's wrong?
What is wrong with that house?
Yeah, it's funny. I hear a lot of our agents, what's wrong with this house? I don't understand why it's not selling. Well, how long has it been on the market? 5 days.
Yeah.
Take a deep breath.
I know. We're a far cry from the time when, average days on the market was like 90.
Yeah, I remember most of my career, I think if you looked at most of my career, you'd see 90 days as your average time on the market, somewhere in there.
If you got it sold in 3 months, you were doing a great job.
Yeah, and so gets a bigger conversation. When we're doing it in 4 days, what is the value of the realtor? Well, the reason why you hire us is to get in that situation where you have massive amounts of buyers,
right?
And they're seeing each other, and we have a strategy on how we're hitting the market and how we're allowing showings. And well, there's 13 hours of daylight a day. Do we just let showings all during the daylight? No showings at night. What's our strategy?
Right.
We have a plan to get you the most people through the house the quickest we can to get you those multiple offers, and then negotiate so that you end up not only with the best offer, you end up with the best, strongest buyer.
Correct, that's hugely important.
Very important.
Very important. It's not always the dollar amount.
It used to be a highest offer, first offer wins. There's a lot of tricks. Like people are saying, okay, this house is listed for 200. Let's offer 275. And then they're not addressing the what if it doesn't appraise.
Right.
And then you'll have somebody who offers 240, but they're saying if it doesn't appraise, we'll cover $20,000 appraisal gap.
Yeah.
That 240 offer is stronger than that 275 if they haven't addressed the appraisal issue.
Exactly.
So understanding and having that professionalism and that experience, that's the value we're bringing to a transaction.
Yes, absolutely. So I had happy sellers this weekend. So
I love it.
Same situation.
I was following your story on Facebook. I was happy to see a happy ending.
So, all right. Anything else you want to add to this?
No, I think you said it best when you said just breathe. It's one of those things that you can hear the media and it sounds like massive changes are coming. 2 changes. You have to have a buyer agency agreement to enter into a house if you are working with an agent. And 2, we just can't put it on the MLS with the offer of compensation.
Correct. So I don't think a lot's changing, but if people do have questions or are hearing things that maybe don't sound right, they're certainly welcome to
reach out
give
to a
any
realtor.
of us a call. Right.
Reach out to a Remax. Reach out to Emily. She's at all our meetings. We talk. We're doing. We have several watch parties with large companies, with a Remax corporate, and we're learning more and more about this all the time.
Right. I mean, we're on a little bit of a learning curve
100%.
ourselves.
This is new.
I mean, this is new to us too.
Right.
So, but yeah, I'm kind of
But it's an
looking forward to the
opportunity.
changes. Exactly. So thanks for joining us, and we will be back again.